Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 12 quarterback plus tight end rankings. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, this cool graphic is going to show up on the screen right now. You can follow me at notorious FNTSY. We're going to be talking about our sponsor, BetMGM, a little bit later. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 12 quarterback plus tight end rankings. We begin with the quarterback rankings for the week with Patrick Mahomes at number 1 of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the LA Rams. 3 straight games for Mahomes as a top 3 quarterback, finishing as the quarterback number 2 in all 3 of those games, and he's currently the quarterback number 2 on the season. The Kansas City Chiefs are huge favorites in this matchup up against the LA Rams, and I fully expect Patrick Mahomes to have an excellent performance this week, just like he's had every single week of the season. He's only had 1 game outside of the top 12, and in that game, he was the quarterback number 13, so I fully expect a big spot out of Mahomes here at home in Kansas City up against the Rams this week. Next up, we move to my quarterback number 2, my guy Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Houston Texans at home in Miami. Over his last 3 games, quarterback 3, 4, and 1, currently the quarterback number 16 on the season, but that is because he was hurt and missed 2 games, as well as missing part of that game up against the Bengals, the game he got hurt in week number 4. The Houston Texans defense is soft as baby shit, and I fully expect Tua Tagovailoa to lay the smackdown onto the Texans defense. My only worry that I talked about in the wide receiver video when it came to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is that the Dolphins haymaker them in the first half. They absolutely destroy them. They're up by 21 going into half, and maybe in the second half they just run the ball, and then Tua can't hit his full top tier potential, right? He's thrown 3 touchdowns in each of his last 3 games with 0 interceptions. So what happens if they come out the gate hot? Tua throws 2 touchdowns, then we end up seeing the running backs score touchdowns in the first half. Jeff Wilson finds way into the end zone, and then the second half opens and they just run the ball a million times. Tua throws 2 touchdowns, has a decent day, but that won't really take you over the top. But at the same time, there is also a scenario where the Dolphins are beating down on the Texans. Tua throws 4 touchdowns in the first half, and then he ends up being the number 1 quarterback on the week. So obviously, there are some dangers when playing up against such a fucking awful team, but ultimately, I still think Tua gets it done this week. At number 3, we have Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Green Bay Packers at home in Philly. 4 games straight inside the top 6 at the quarterback position, currently the quarterback number 3. The matchup up against the Packers does not really concern me at all. On Sunday Night Football, I fully expect another top 6 performance out of Jalen Hurts, so I think his ranking as quarterback number 3 is incredibly fair. At number 4, we move to Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Now, it really has been a tale of kind of 2 seasons for Lamar Jackson. To start off the year, quarterback 8-1-1. This guy came out the gate on fucking fire, NBA Jam style. And then after that, quarterback 19, 15, 11, 22, 9, 10, and 15. Now, I'm not trying to discredit Lamar Jackson and say Lamar Jackson has sucked absolute donkey hog or something over the last stretch of games, but ultimately, he has not been one of these guys that is reliable as a top 5 quarterback game in and game out ever since the start of the season. Could everything turn around this week up against a piss-poor Jacksonville Jaguars defense at times? Definitely. This definitely could be the turnaround game. So I have him ranked as my quarterback number 4. Expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros currently have him as quarterback number 7. So I'm a little bit higher on Lamar Jackson this week, but ultimately, I do think this is a good bounce back spot for Lamar, who's currently quarterback number 6 on the season. At number 5, we have Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty of the Cincinnati Bengals, going up against the Atlanta Titans in Tennessee. Back-to-back games as a top 7 quarterback. Quarterback 1 last week against the Steelers by week 10. And then in week number 9, quarterback number 7. He's really only had 1 down game this year as quarterback number 22 in an incredibly positive matchup up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, but that game was an absolute fucking disaster from the whole Bengals offense. Whether Jamar Chase plays or not does not really affect my decision too much on Joe Burrow. I still like him with Chase. Without, obviously, would I be more happy if Ja'Marr Chase played? Of course, because then the upside of Joe Burrow is the number one guy. But I still think even without Ja'Marr Chase, Joe Burrow has that upside. At number 6, we have Justin Herbert, the pervert of the LA Chargers, going up against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. It has been quite a rocky road for Justin Herbert this season, mostly because once he ended up getting hurt in week number 2 of the season, everything kind of went a little bit wrong for him as well as the team. We've seen injuries to Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett. A lot of his main weapons have gotten hurt, but ultimately, if there was ever a game for Justin Herbert to have that game that we were used to from last season where he's a top 5 quarterback, maybe even the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football, would be this week up against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona in what could be an incredibly high-scoring tit-for-tat back-and-forth game. I really like Justin Herbert a ton in this spot. Quarterback 12 last week up against the Chiefs. At number 7, we have Geno Smith, quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, this week going up against the Las Vegas Raiders at home in Seattle. Quarterback 11, 5, and 13 over his last 3 starts. Currently the quarterback 8 on the season. The Las Vegas Raiders have one of the worst defensive units in all of the NFL. Geno Smith has played really well at points in this season, and even in his down games, he has been relatively solid. He really only had one game where he absolutely shit the bed, and that was up against a stout Niners defense all the way back in week number 2, where he was quarterback 30, which is bad, but again, he's still quarterback 8 on the season. He has a really good matchup this week. I'd be shocked if he didn't finish inside the top 12. Closing out the top 8, we have the short king, the king of Call of Duty, Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals, this week going up against Justin Herbert, the pervert, and the LA Chargers at home. Now, we have not seen Kyler Murray over the last 2 games, missing against the Niners and the LA Rams. Last 3 games out, quarterback 8, 3, and 10. Currently the quarterback 10 on the season despite missing 2 games. I think this is a great matchup yet again. I just talked about it with Herbert. I really think this could be a very high-scoring Rock'em Sock'em Robots-esque match, and I really do think Kyler Murray steps up in a big way in his comeback game. Next up, we move to the man who has been divorced 2-0 since his divorce, Tampa Bay Tom Brady of the Buccaneers going up against the Cleveland Browns. In Cleveland, we've seen back-to-back weeks of the Cleveland Browns getting the ever-living shit beat out of them by offenses. The Dolphins and the Bills did that this week. We could see if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could end up doing that. We've seen really a weird season out of Tom Brady. People are talking about his fall-off, and honestly, he has not looked like what he's looked like over the last couple of years in Tampa, but ultimately, all of the weapons are still there. They're going up against a defense that could be taken advantage of, as we've seen against the Bills and the Dolphins. So this is a really good spot for Tom, but ultimately my confidence in Tom Brady is not as high as it really should be. But again, his play hasn't really caused me to be confident, so I think I am in the right saying that I'm not super confident. It just came out, breaking news, that Ja'Marr Chase will be out this week, so Joe Burrow, obviously, again, I don't think that's a slight downgrade or something. I think he'll be just fine where I have him ranked. I honestly didn't expect Ja'Marr Chase to play, if I'm being honest with you. Next up, we move to quarterback number 10, Justin Fields. His availability is very up in the air. They're saying he's going to be a game-time decision, so I doubt we'll know today. That injury is pretty serious, and again, I'm not a doctor. I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, but ultimately, if I was the head coach of the Chicago Bears, if I'm ever Flus, then I'm sitting down Justin Fields, but I'm not the head coach, and I'm not a doctor, so maybe he ends up playing, and if he does end up playing, he's going to be a top 10 quarterback 7, 1, 1, 5, 5, 8 over his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. Quick maths. I think that this is a decent spot for him, even up against a tough Jets defense. I'd be hard-pressed to see Justin Fields falter in any matchup at this point. At number 11, we have Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Pornstar, Jimmy Guap of the San Francisco 49ers going up against the New Orleans Saints at home in San Fran. Quarterback 5 as he dissected the Arizona Cardinals defense last week. That was a massacre in Mexico City. It was absolutely hard to watch if you were a Cardinals fan. Jimmy Garoppolo threw 4 fucking touchdowns, 228 yards, and had 3 rushing yards. Jimmy Garoppolo now gets the Saints. I know the Saints defense at points has looked really good this season, but at this point, Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy that you roll out every week. I use this analogy a lot, but I think it's really true when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a guy that's never really going to take you over the top, because even in his ceiling game, he was quarterback 5 last week. Obviously, that's a great game. I'm not trying to diss Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'd be hard-pressed to see him be a top 3 quarterback in any given week. But at the exact same time, he's also never going to really be quarterback 24, 25 and shit the bed and sink the metaphorical ship of your roster. Your fucking team isn't going to be nose up on like the fucking Titanic after it's smashed directly into that iceberg. So ultimately, I am confident in Jimmy G every week. But again, I really don't think he's ever going to end up winning you a week at number 12. If he ever did, though, it would have been last week at number 12. We have touchdown Jesus Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Baltimore Ravens at home in Jacksonville. Currently the quarterback 15 on the season, quarterback 8-12 over the last 2 games. We have seen Trevor Lawrence be really inconsistent this season. There are high highs as a top 4 quarterback twice, and then there's games where he's quarterback 26, 21, 30, 24. Now, the Ravens defense might be much better than people give them credit for. This might end up being a stalemate matchup, kind of like we saw last week up against the Panthers. I don't think that is necessarily going to be the case because the Panthers offense is just abysmally bad. They had to pivot to mono man Sam Darnold, so obviously things weren't going the best, but ultimately I don't think I have all that much trust in Trevor Lawrence. I do think he's risky, but the upside is certainly there if this does become a higher scoring matchup. Before we pivot on into the rest of the quarterbacks, then move into the tight ends, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at BetMGM. They've been on your screen this whole entire time. Now, if you're a brand new user to BetMGM and place a $10 pre-game moneyline wager on any team in the World Cup, if there is another goal in the World Cup, you will receive $200 in free bets. You're guaranteed to get $200 in free bets. Your game could end up losing. Your bet could get demolished. They could lose 7-0. And guess what? As long as another goal is scored in the World Cup, your bet will win, which is guaranteed to happen. And you'll get your $200 in free bets. You're going to get your $200 in free bets regardless of what happens. I'm going to throw it onto the screen right now. What I would do is just go up to the top, click on soccer, and literally pick whatever the biggest favorite is, or just pick whoever you want to win. Bet $10 on that. Even if your wager loses, you will still get $200 in free bets. Guaranteed. This offer won't last forever, so make sure you take advantage of it right now before it disappears. Back on into things, quarterback 13, Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. Quarterback 10, 15, and 9 over the last 3 games, despite the fact that the Raiders are really a disaster this season. Definitely not what most people expected, and if you're a Raiders fan, you're probably wearing a fucking brown paper bag over your head to the games, but ultimately the Seattle Seahawks matchup is pretty solid. The Seahawks defense is a little bit underrated, but this really could end up being a higher scoring game. Last week, Carr played pretty well up against a very tough Denver Broncos defense, finishing the week as the quarterback number 10. Again, I think this is an interesting matchup, and I think despite the fact that, again, the Raiders have been a disaster, catastrophe, they have been awful, not what anyone expected, disaster, all types of bad words you could throw at Derek Carr. Derek Carr also crying after one of the press conferences like a little baby bitch because he knows his job's over, but hey, he still got the job this year. He still got Devontae Adams. So he's probably going to do good enough for your fantasy team. At number 14, we have Marcus Mariota of the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Commanders in Washington. Now, despite the fact that when watching the game, Marcus Mariota looks like a steaming pile of shit, he still continues to put up points because of his rushing upside and because he hasn't been throwing that many interceptions, and he throws like 2 touchdowns every single game. Marcus Mariota, again, is one of those quarterbacks that's never really going to win you your week, but more than likely he's going to finish inside the top 15. So his ranking as quarterback 14 I thought was fair, especially up against the Commanders. At number 15, we have Ron Rodgers of the of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. 3 straight games as a top 13 quarterback, currently quarterback 12 on the season. I do have him ranked outside the top 12 because I do think the Eagles defense is incredibly legit up against the pass. They're one of the best pass defenses in all of the NFL. I think this is a tough matchup for Rodgers. I think ultimately he could end up shitting the bed, but after Rodgers, things start to get incredibly dicey. At number 16, we have Taylor Heinicke of the Commanders going up against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, we all know the upside of Taylor Heinicke, and that is playing really well. Quarterback 13, 8, and 15 through his 3 first starts of the year. After that, though, quarterback 27 last week up against the Texans in a wet dream matchup. Quarterback number 24. This week, he faces the awful, the atrocious Atlanta Falcons defense. The question is, will he be able to actually elevate his play to become a top 12 guy, or are we going to end up with our thumb directly shoved up our asshole, sitting here as he finishes his quarterback 24 like last week up against a putrid? You smell that? That's the Texans defense. It's also the Falcons defense. This is an incredibly easy matchup, but Taylor Heinicke is extremely tough to, evaluate because he's a very risky player. He makes a lot of dumb plays. those dumb plays also sometimes that might be a pick six might result in a fucking touchdown. But he is very risky. At number 17, we have Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett in his final start as a Cleveland Brown before Deshaun Watson becomes the starting quarterback of the team. Again, if Watson's available in your league, make sure you pick him up. Jacoby Brissett, quarterback of the Browns, going up against the Bucks. Quarterback 4 last week up against the Bills. Brissett's another one of these guys. He's like discount Jimmy G, in my opinion. Like, not very exciting, but not really ever going to be the reason why your team gets skull-fucked. Quarterback number 18, Matty Ice Baby, dun 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 dun, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Steelers. In his first game back up against the Raiders, he was quarterback number 5. After that, quarterback 22 up against the Eagles. The Steelers defense is much better than people give them credit for, and I think the Steelers defense is going to take advantage of that offensive line in Indianapolis. I don't think Matt Ryan's going to have all that great of a time in this game. At number 19, we have Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited, quarterback of the Denver Broncos, going up against the Panthers in Carolina. 3 straight games outside of the top 20 at the quarterback position, currently quarterback 22. This is an even worse experiment than the Las Vegas Raiders. The Russell Wilson extravaganza has been incredibly tough to watch. The guy makes me want to fucking stab my eyes with some blades that you could find in Hell's Kitchen, the TV show, of course. Not the place in New York. Ultimately, the matchup isn't even the best up against the Panthers. Fuck you, Russell Wilson. At quarterback number 20, we have Kenny Pickett of the Steelers going up against the Colts in Indianapolis. I think Kenny Pickett's been relatively underrated for fantasy football. He's never really had that top 10 game. His best finish was quarterback 12 up against the Saints, but we've seen him be pretty consistent. Quarterback 18, 19, 25, 17, 12, 16. Maybe this is the game against the Colts. I don't think so, but I think we need to start respecting Pickett a little bit more. But while we're going to start respecting him, he's still not really a start-worthy fantasy football option. Now we pivot to the tight end position, beginning with the number 1 tight end, who is, you guessed it, I know this would have been really hard to assume going into the video, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the LA Rams this week. Tight end 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 15, 1 on the year. Tight end number 1 on the season in half PPR. There's not much to say about Kelce. You start him every single week. At number 2, we have Mark Andrews. Same thing said. We've seen some down games at points in this season. Currently the tight end 3 going up against the Jaguars this week in Jacksonville. Jaguars defense been incredibly hit or miss. You're starting Mark Andrews. You're not even thinking fucking twice about it. We even made jokes that if he played a couple of weeks ago when he was banged up on a fucking peg leg, I still would have started him. At number 3, we have George Kittle Me Timbers of the 49ers going up against the New Orleans Saints at home in San Francisco. Kittle was the tight end number 2 last week up against the Arizona Cardinals, scoring 2 total tugs in that matchup. To start off the year, things were incredibly bleak for George Kittle, but recently he's turned it on outside of one down game up against the Chargers. Again, he's in that same range as Kelce, Andrews. These are guys you're starting every single week. You don't even have to think twice about it. At number 4, we got Pat Fryer Muth of the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. The reason why you play Fryer Muth is because of the insane amount of volume. Over his last 4 games, he's had 12, 7, 7, and 9 targets. This week, he gets the Colts defense. Again, I don't love Kenny Pickett, but the fact is that this guy gets so much volume that he continues to put up solid fantasy numbers. And number 5, we have Greg Dulcich of the Denver Broncos going up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Again, I don't think this is the best matchup. I hate Mr. Unlimited, but ultimately, Greg Dulcich is one of the top targets on the team. It seems like Jerry Jeudy is not going to play, so that gives me even more confidence in Dulcich, who was the tight end number 16 last week. I think greener pastures are ahead for Dulcich. At number 6, we have Foster Moreau of the Raiders going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. Tight end number 20 last week up against the Broncos, but I won't necessarily throw stones at this one because that is an incredibly tough matchup for Foster Moreau. The Denver defense is incredible all around, and they are great up against the tight end. This week he gets Seattle, which is a positive matchup for the tight end. I love Moreau in this spot. At number 7, we have Tyler Higbee of the LA Rams going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Currently questionable. I expect him to play. Top 12 tight end in both of his last 2 showings. Even if Bryce Perkins is under center, which is the belief right now, Tyler Higbee should be just fine. At number 8, we have David Njoku of the Browns going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his comeback game up against the Bills. Didn't do all that well, had only 3 fantasy points, tight end number 26, but he should be a lot more healthy this week up against the Bucs. And while I don't think this game will be that high scoring, there is still a narrative that is possible. And early on in the season, Njoku had incredible finishes at the tight end position, And clearly, Jacoby Brissett loves to throw the ball his way. At tight end number 9, we have Cole Kmet. His ranking is heavily impacted by Justin Fields' availability. Right now, I'd say it's pretty 50-50 if he plays or not. I really don't think he should play. But again, what do I know? Not a doctor, not a coach. Tight end 17, last time out up against the Atlanta Falcons. A down game after tight end 1, 2, and 12 over the other 3 games prior to that. Tight end 10 on the season in half PPR. The matchup against the Jets definitely is not ideal. I'm not banging the drum for it, but the tight end position is incredibly hard to dissect after, I'd say, the top 12-ish guys. So again, the volume's going to be there. He's a good player. The question is, will Fields play or not? At number 10, we have Hayden Hurst of the Bengals going up against the Atlanta Titans in Tennessee. We'll be without Jamar Chase, so the upside of Hayden Hurst is much higher. Again, he's not a guy that's must start every single week, but you could make the argument that you could see a big game out of him. Hadn't scored a touchdown since week number 5, but maybe that changes this week up against the Atlanta Titans. At number 11, we have Jawan Johnson, who we just need to throw a lot of respect onto his name, going up against the Niners this week in San Francisco. 3 straight weeks with a touchdown. Tight end 4, 4, and 8 over the last 3 games. Tight end number 8 on the season. Again, this matchup up against the Niners is going to be incredibly difficult, but I'm just going to stay with the heat. The guy's on fucking fire. He has scored a grand total of 5 touchdowns in the last 5 games, which is, spoiler alert, really good. At number 12, we have Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Baltimore Ravens. We've seen greatness. We've seen atrociousness out of Evan Ingram. And that's just what you get once you get this deep at the tight end position. The guy has all the upside in the world. Will it cash, though, up against the Ravens? At number 13, we have Noah Fant of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Raiders. Geno Smith loves to throw the ball to the tight end. The issue is they have multiple tight ends, and they also have incredible specimen like DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, and Tyler Lockett on the team. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen in Seattle, but since Geno likes to throw the ball to the tight end so much, you can see that upside out of Fant, plus the great matchup against the Raiders. At 14, we have my guy Mike Licky Amagasicki of the Houston Texans, or not of the Houston Texans, of the Dolphins, going up against the Houston Texans. We haven't seen that boom game out of Gesicki recently. His last big game was in week number 8 up against the Lions, but ultimately, this matchup is amazing. Mouth-watering. I'm salivating just thinking of the matchup. Again, incredibly hit or miss. He has games where he's a top 3 tight end. He has games where he's tight end 56, 55, 38, 48. So, pretty boomer bust player. At number 15, we have Tyler Conklin of the Jets going up against the Chicago Bears. We have yet to see Conklin with Mike White. He was a lot better with Joe Flacco, Cool Joe under center, compared to with Zach Milfson. So maybe he gets a bump up this week up against a bad Bears defense. At number 16, we have Big Bob Tonyan of the Packers going up against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. 5 straight games of being absolute ass for Robert Tonyan. But when you have to try to make the argument of, oh, who's a tight end that you can see scoring, who's a tight end that you can see outperforming expectations every week, that will be Tonyan because of how good of a player he is. Now we move to the final tight ends here, tight ends 17 through 20. At 17, we have Logan Thomas, currently banged up going into the game, tight end 8 last week. That's his best game on the season outside of week 2 up against the Lions. This season has not been very pretty for Logan Thomas, but ultimately the matchup's great against the Falcons. At 18, we have Taysom Hill. We've seen the highest of highs, the lowest of lows with Taysom Hill. He's incredibly risky, super high upside, could end up booming and being the reason why you win your week. He could also be the reason why your team sinks and ultimately fails because he scores 0 points and doesn't get many touches. Niners defense is tough to crack. Crack is whack. I expect Hill to not be the best start this week. At number 19, we have Gerald Everett. I fully expect him to play this week. Very hit or miss this season. Gets a great matchup against the Cardinals in Arizona. The problem is Keenan Allen is back, and that does throw a damper into this situation. At number 20, to close out today's video, we have Austin Hooper, the hoop god of the Tennessee Titans, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals at home in Tennessee. Tight end 3 last week, but outside of that big game, hasn't done shit all season, hasn't done anything. Again, maybe you start riding the hot streak, but the hot streak hasn't even truly begun if it's just 1 game. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at notorious FNTSY. Make sure you check out that offer. BetMGM, bet $10 on any World Cup pregame money line, win $200 in free bets as long as there's a goal scored in the World Cup, which is guaranteed to happen. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I love you guys all so much. Have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.